it is Graham here, living the dream in October 2021 at the fantastic Sandals Grande Antigua. A few weeks ago, before I made this trip out to Antigua, I looked back at last year's video at the Sandals Grande St. Lucia and we'd reached nearly 5,000 views. And this year I want to see if we can beat that by a resort tour of this fantastic resort that is the Sandals Grande Antigua. Before I get into this video, I do want to put a slight health warning. It is October 2021. We are reaching the end of the coronavirus pandemic, or so we hope, so things at the resort are not quite back to normal. But I do think that the Sandals staff do an awesome, fantastic job about trying to make your vacation the best it'll ever be. Before I get into this resort and room tour, there are a few things I'd like to say. First of all, I recorded all of those introductions down on the beach at about 6:30 in the morning of Monday the 4th of October 2021. So the second full day of Fiona's and my vacation at the Sandals Grande Antigua. From all of our previous visits and resort and room tour reviews of various Sandals resorts that Fiona and I have visited over the years, hopefully you'll appreciate that Fiona and I have been extremely loyal to the Sandals brand since 2013. And that's what's making this video so difficult to produce, because quite frankly, the resort wasn't fantastic, it wasn't incredible, and there were many small issues throughout our vacation that built into one big issue that's actually now making Fiona and I question the Sandals brand entirely. I do, however, find it very difficult to criticise publicly the Sandals brand, the Sandals staff, because it's not all bad, it's not all good. So how do I provide you with a balanced resort and room tour in this video? I'm going to try my best, guys. I'm not going to promise this is going to be the best video I've ever produced, but I'm going to try and give you an honest opinion of our view of the Sandals Grande Antigua in October 2021. Run video. Those of you who have done any research on the Sandals Grande Antigua will know that it is two resorts in one. First of all, you have the Caribbean Village, which is exactly where we're starting this resort and room tour now. But you also have the Mediterranean side, which we'll come to later on in this resort and room tour. So if you arrive on board the free Sandals transfer bus, or even a private limo or taxi, and you're staying on the Caribbean side of the Sandals Grande Antigua, after passing through security, you will arrive in the Caribbean lobby area down this drive. The first thing to note is how well the gardens are manicured. The lawns are absolutely gorgeous throughout this resort, and the grounds team at Sandals do an absolutely fantastic job at keeping it that way throughout the entire resort. But as I've said already, if you're staying at the Caribbean side of the Sandals Grande Antigua, you will arrive in this covered lobby area, which is exactly what Fiona and I did on Saturday the 2nd of October 2021. However, our arrival process was pretty poor. Despite booking our vacation all through Sandals, including the resorts and flight, we were also members of the Sandals loyalty program, and I checked in online, but Sandals still had absolutely no record, or should I say, couldn't find any record of our booking or our arrival on that particular day. Some guests get champagne on arrival and some get cocktails. We got the cocktail, and it is always very welcome. Anyway, getting back to the resort tour of the Sandals Grande Antigua here at the lobby area on the Caribbean side. The next thing that I want to tell you is I shot all of this film at around 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. one morning. Those of you who have watched my previous resort and room tours at the various Sandals resorts that Fiona and I have visited over the years know I do this in respect to the other guests. I know that not everybody wants to have their faces shared on YouTube, so I do this out of complete respect for the other guests. And it's for that reason the resort will look quiet during this tour. The reception desk that you can see across the lobby area is for guests who are not staying in a club level room. I will of course point out the Club Sandals Lounge a little bit later on in this video tour. But leaving the lobby area, you arrive in what's known as the courtyard. And the courtyard is one of two areas at the Sandals Grande Antigua where you will get evening entertainment. Later on in this tour, I will point out the second stage, which is situated in the Mediterranean side of the resort, just outside the Drunken Duck pub. And this comfy sitting area is known as the lounge, but I've also heard it called the living room. Exiting the living room back into the courtyard area, the first restaurant you're going to find on your left is Eleanor's. Eleanor's is a Caribbean-styled restaurant, and when we visited the Sandals Grande Antigua back in October 2019, there was a dress code for this restaurant, which really just meant long trousers, or long pants as you Americans would call it for the guys. However, when we visited in October 2021, when I shot this video, no such rules applied to any restaurant at the Sandals Grande Antigua, which in my opinion was very welcome. And next to Eleanor's, or what I should say between Eleanor's and the Bayside restaurant, which I'll get to shortly, is one of the many open bars at the Sandals Grande Antigua. And as you can see, no matter where you are at the Sandals Grande Antigua, you're never too far away from this incredible beach, which I will come back to later on in the video. I do want to briefly talk about the bar and the bar staff throughout this resort. Like at any resort, you will find both good staff and, let's just say, not so good staff. We found at all of the bars on the resort, they kept running out of wine, champagne, beer, etc. The good staff would of course go to the next bar and find you exactly what you wanted to drink, but sadly the not so good staff just shrugged their shoulders and were too lazy to do anything. And sadly we found that to be a theme throughout our vacation at the Sandals Grande Antigua in October 2021. Above the courtyard bar is of course the OK Corral Mexican style restaurant, and next to that downstairs is the Bayside, which of course is a French style restaurant at night and a buffet breakfast in the morning. I also believe you can get a buffet style lunch there as well, but it's something Fiona and I have never tried during our vacation at any Sandals resort. And of course next to the Bayside restaurant is the snack bar, where you can order, well, funny enough, snacks at lunchtime. Very good snacks, in fact. This chicken burger, the buffalo chicken sandwich, I can strongly recommend. I really enjoyed it. The only thing that I will say is the service at the snack bar at lunchtime was extremely slow. In fact, during our first week at the resort, we ordered chicken sandwiches one lunchtime and it took well over an hour to get them, which was absolutely ridiculous. Okay, moving on, I want to take a quick look at the Bayside restaurant in the morning, where most of you will probably be eating your breakfast if you're staying at this resort. Remember, it is October 2021. We are at the latter stages, or what we hope are the latter stages, of the COVID-19 pandemic. So Sandals were still implementing, or should I say still using, their COVID procedures, which at the buffet meant that staff would actually go and pick up what you asked for while you waited. However, unlike last year at the Sandals Grande St. Lucian, where the same COVID procedures were in place, here at the Sandals Grande Antigua, if you wanted to order eggs or an omelette in the morning, you had to do that via your waitress. And of course that meant you had to guesstimate your timings if you didn't want the rest of your breakfast to be cold. But for Fiona and I, on our first morning, things went from bad to worse, because our waitress didn't tell us that you had to order your eggs or your omelette before heading to the buffet collection point. And he'll mend you if you meet Linda, the egg chef, at breakfast in the morning, and the procedures haven't been explained to you by your waitress, because my mild-mannered, softly spoken wife had the face chewed off her for daring to order eggs, like we've done pretty well every year that we've visited Sandals in the past. However, it wasn't just Fiona that was running into problems. We saw other guests and staff be spoken to exactly the same way by this egg chef, which was quite frankly disgusting. Which is a level of service you shouldn't experience at any hotel, never mind what Sandals brand themselves as a 5-star luxury Caribbean resort. Needless to say, Fiona and I didn't make the same mistake twice after our first morning, and during the other mornings the majority of waiters and waitresses did explain the egg ordering process to us, unlike on our first morning. But despite the challenges, the buffet restaurant for breakfast was pretty standard fare that you will find at any Sandals you visit in the Caribbean. There are of course alternatives for breakfast. You can go to Mario's, which is also a buffet style breakfast indoors in the air conditioning, but Fiona and I really love the Bayside because it's outdoors and next to the beach. And of course you can go to Eleanor's for breakfast, which is an a la carte style sit down restaurant in the morning. But if you do that, set aside plenty of time, because at Sandals perfection clearly takes time. My eggs Benedict took nearly an hour to arrive. I'm laughing about it now, but quite frankly the service was ridiculously slow. Anyway, let's get back to a resort tour, leaving the courtyard area towards the Caribbean side of the resort. And the first place you'll come to in the right is of course the Sandals Club Lounge. If you're thinking of paying extra to stay at club level at the Sandals Grande Antigua, my advice to you guys is don't. In our opinion, it really got you nothing extra. And anytime Fiona and I visited the club lounge, the staff were incredibly unhelpful and seemed happy to just sit back and do nothing in their air-conditioned cocoon. And next to the club lounge is this little courtyard pool area. And this was in fact where Fiona and I spent the first 6 nights of our vacation at the Sandals Grande Antigua in October 2021. About 6 months earlier, we had extended our holiday by 1 week. Sandals couldn't give us the room that we wanted, so we chose to stay in a fairly basic room in this part of the resort for the first 6 nights. I'll get to the room shortly, but it overlooked this little pool courtyard area, which was very nice. And this is where Fiona and I spent the first 4 days of our Antigua 21 adventure, sunbathing and generally relaxing. So this was our room for the first 6 nights of our vacation at the Sandals Grande Antigua in October 2021, and that is room 512, which I believe is a Caribbean honeymoon suite something or other. They're all very complicated at the resort, but it was a fairly basic room and wasn't the most expensive room by any stretch of the imagination. And yes, at the Sandals Grande Antigua, they're still using this old 1970s style magnetic card readers, so if you're like us and you keep your room key by your mobile phone, you will be back at reception every couple of days to get a new key. This room was nearly identical to the one that we had back in 2019. It is old, it is tired, but you know, it's okay. The bathroom is on the left and it was accessible through a wooden sliding door. The bathroom was clean, or should I say it was sort of clean, because there were some pretty suspicious marks on the bath. However, Fiona and I weren't expecting much for the room we would only be spending the first 6 nights in at this resort in October 21. And across from the wash hand basin in the bathroom is the wardrobe. It was pretty standard fare for Sandals, including a safe ironing board and of course an iron. As I said during my resort and room tour back in 2019, don't expect much from the showers at the Sandals Grande Antigua. The power of the showers are pretty poor. I believe the water pressure is just a problem in Antigua, but it certainly was a problem at the Sandals Grande Antigua. And exiting the bathroom, turning left, you enter the main bedroom. It is one of Sandals' older style rooms. The dark wood furniture is tired, it is old, and it is badly in need of a revamp. You do get coffee and tea making facilities. The TV works and provides good English, American, and Spanish television. There, of course, is also a minibar. However, because this is not a club level room, we were never expecting it to be stocked with top-line liquors. However, a couple of nights into our vacation, Sandals did contact us and ask us was there anything we wanted. Those of you who've watched our past video vlogs at Sandals will know that Fiona and I enjoy a glass, or should I say a bottle of champagne, in the late afternoon and early evening. So 2 days into our vacation, Sandals asked us what we would like, and Fiona asked for a bottle of champagne, which of course Sandals said they would send up immediately. Of course, immediately in island time does not really mean immediately, because Sandals took 3 days to deliver that bottle of champagne. Anyway, the bottle of champagne, of course, was very welcome, and Fiona and I enjoyed it while listening to music, eating crisps and nuts, overlooking the pool that we'd spent the day catching up on plenty of vitamin D. So summing up, room 512 was okay. The air conditioning worked. The room did need an overhaul, but at the end of the day, we didn't expect much from the first 6 nights of our 21 vacation. I'll come back a little bit later in the video to a tour of room 515, which was Donna and Michael's room. Sadly, their experience was pretty darn poor, and I do want to cover it in the video, but let's get on and head towards the gym. I do want to briefly talk about the cats on the resort. First of all, Fiona and I are both cat lovers, so we're very happy, in fact delighted to see the cats around the resort, because the one thing you will not find at this resort are mice and rats. And that of course means the cats are doing their job. Getting back to the resort tour, we're now approaching approaching the gym and the spa. I'm not a fan of gyms. I've never, quite frankly, seen the point of them, and I'm not a big fan of spas either, so I'm sorry guys, I haven't taken a video inside either. However, there is plenty of good material on the Sandals website, so if you want to have a look at the gym and the spa, or should I say a closer look at the gym and the spa, just go along to the sandals.co.uk or the sandals.com website and search for the Sandals Grande Antigua. And despite the tennis courts looking very quiet at the moment, they were very well used during the early mornings and the early evenings where it is a little bit cooler. And talking about the weather, during our stay in October 2021, the weather was very good. We had no rain at all during the first week. We did get some rain during the second week, but Antigua is in the tropics and this is to be expected. As we come back to the rooms where Fiona and I spent the first 6 nights of our vacation in October 21, I'd like to take you on a short room tour of room 515, which was taken by our good friends Donna and Michael during their vacation, which was during the second week of our vacation in October 21. The first thing to say is their room was extremely dirty. As you can see here in their video, the bath was disgusting. While we can't confirm what these marks are on the tiles, it did look like blood. And these suspect dirty marks continued onto the carpet. There was suntan lotion marks on the television, so for Sandals to claim that they spend extra time cleaning the rooms between guests is absolutely rubbish. And Sandals' response to this, well, as you would expect, pretty nothing, to be honest. And this was sadly their way in October 2021 when we visited the Sandals Grande Antigua. Right, let's move on and get back to the resort tour. And as you can see, the walk to the beach from the rooms that we spent our first 6 nights was definitely a short one. The building you can see now is the back end of the Bayside restaurant. Next to that is a gazebo that saw a wedding nearly every day. And the rooms you can see on the right are the Caribbean beach view rooms. And it was one of these rooms that Donna and Michael stayed in 2019 when we were last at this resort. And if you go back to a resort and room tour from the Sandals Grande Antigua in 2019, you will see a detailed report of that room, including several time-lapse sunset videos. And next to the Caribbean beach view rooms is a lovely little swimming pool. Fiona and I sunbathed here several times during our Antigua 21 adventure. In our opinion, this pool gives you the best of both worlds. A swimming pool to cool off in next to the gorgeous beach outside Sandals Grande Antigua. And it was now about 7 a.m. in the morning, so just after 7 o'clock, and you can see there were still plenty of sun loungers on the beach available. I will of course talk about the sun lounger situation a little bit later on in this video. Right, let's head past the Sandals Club Lounge again in the direction of the courtyard. These gorgeous parrots are let out of their cage every day. However, I'm not a fan of any caged animals, so I'm not going to say any more on the matter. So let's leave the courtyard area now, heading through the tunnel towards the other half of the Caribbean side of the Sandals Grande Antigua. I really do hope that my little GoPro does these gardens justice, because the entire grounds maintenance staff at the Sandals Grande Antigua do such a fantastic job to keep the lawns and the gardens so well manicured. This was a really nice outdoor sitting area to watch the sun go down in the evening, of course with a glass of something cold in your hand. These are the Beach View Rendezvous rooms. They are all butler level and have a fantastic little fenced off dipping pool area at the rear. I love the Rendezvous rooms at Sandals, and Fiona and I do plan to stay in one during our 25th wedding anniversary when we hope to redo our vows. However, that will not be at this resort. Walking beyond this point, we would be entering the Mediterranean side of the Sandals Grande Antigua. However, there's lots I still want to show you from the Caribbean side of the resort. So I'm going to walk up this pass past the Rendezvous in the direction of the small pool bar. This is what Fiona and I refer to as the small pool bar. There is a much larger swim-up pool bar on the Mediterranean. In our opinion, this is a much smaller, more intimate pool bar, but it's also where you will find pool volleyball in the afternoon. And this is where I do want to talk about Towelgate. You will see that every single sun lounger here around this pool has already been blocked, and they're being blocked from around 6 a.m. every morning by the butlers. Sandals does have a policy that if you haven't gone to your sun lounger by 10 a.m, anyone can remove the towels and take the lounger for themselves. However, I still think it is an absolutely disgusting practice. Just because you've paid for a room with a butler, you are also allowed to block a sun lounger for the day. In my opinion, it should be a first come, first serve policy, where the vast majority of guests would then have the ability to choose the sun lounger of their choice. Sandals really do need to get a grip of this disgraceful behaviour and sort it out once and for all. Anyway, rant over, back to our tour of the Caribbean side of the Sandals Grande Antigua. And we will return to this point on the path a little bit later on in the video as we enter the Mediterranean side of the resort. Next, I'm going to take you up to the Sunset Bluff room. And this is where Fiona and I spent our entire vacation during our trip to the Sandals Grande Antigua in October 2019. But it's also where we spent the second 8 nights of this vacation in October 2021. Okay, let's take a look at room 804, which was the room we had for the second half of our Antigua 21 adventure. This room category was a Sunset Bluff walkout club level suite, something or other. I can't remember the exact name, but all you really need to know, it was a club level Sunset Bluff walkout room. All of the Sunset Bluff rooms have been refurbished since Fiona and I last visited the Sandals Grande Antigua in 2019. However, as you can see there, Sandals have cut corners, and you continue to access the rooms using magnetic swipe technology that really we haven't seen in most modern resorts in over a decade. However, enter room 804 and you realise it is spacious, it is clean, and it is very, very well appointed after being refurbished in the last 2 years. Again, just just like in our last room, 512, just opposite the sink or the wash hand basin is a wardrobe where you'll find a large safe, iron and ironing board. And as you can see, the old stained bath has been replaced by this modern walk-in shower. However, don't get too excited, guys, because the water pressure is still pathetic. But I do want to praise Sandals. Well done, guys. This room, and the bathroom especially, is extremely well appointed. Of course, with this being a club level room, you get top shelf liquor. And that meant that Fiona and I didn't have to request our daily bottle of champagne. Sandals just restocked it every day, along with all juices, wines and beers from the mini fridge. However, coffee was a different story altogether. After 2 days in this room, we simply ran out. And no matter how many times we contacted Club Sandals or the housekeeping team, they seemed completely incapable to replace the coffee. In fact, it took us around 7 phone calls and 4 days to finally get coffee back in this room. Again, another very small thing, but extremely annoying, and something Sandals could have sorted out in minutes after the first call reporting we were out of coffee. And this is why Fiona and I chose this room. We exited the front sliding doors straight out onto the patio with very easy access to the pool and jacuzzi. I really do like how Sandals have redecorated these rooms. They are spacious and airy and have a very modern vibe, making it very different to the first room we had, 512. The only criticism I have is with the staff again. On one of the days during our second week, we simply didn't have our room service, and we know exactly why. Because that morning the room service lady did everything she could to twist her way out of servicing our room. However, I will state now that management did sort this out, and our room was serviced late on that very evening by another member of the housekeeping team who was lovely. Okay, leaving the sunset bluff rooms, we're on the homeward straight. We're heading back towards reception, or the lobby as Americans like to call it. These will be the last rooms on the Caribbean side of the resort I'll be showing you in this video. I believe that most, if not all of these rooms have also been revamped in the last 2 years, but sorry guys, I can't confirm it or not. There is also this lovely little courtyard swimming pool, but I can't help feeling there is simply not enough sun loungers for the number of rooms surrounding this little pool. Maybe somebody watching this video who stayed in one of these rooms can tell us in the comments below how they got on with the sun loungers around this little pool, if that is where they decided to lounge during the day, of course. And that's it, we're walking back towards the entrance area, the Caribbean side of the Sandals Grande Antigua. This of course is where I started this video, so it's time for me to transport you over to the Mediterranean side. Back at the small swim-up pool bar, taking the right-hand fork in the path leads you to the Mediterranean village, where you will find the on-site Sandals store, Fiona and Donna's favourite, of course, being Colombian emeralds, the Sandals loyalty desk come travel agents, the photography shop, and of course my favourite, Paris, where you will find great coffee and cakes. And before you ask, yes, I did procure Fiona her Christmas present at Colombian Emeralds this year, as I do every year when we visit Sandals. And we did try to visit the loyalty desk, however, they simply weren't interested in us anymore. I can only make the assumption that the loyalty desk team are on some sort of commission plan, because once Donna, Michael, Fiona and I presented our free week to them, they simply weren't interested in booking our next Sandals vacation. We of course will keep you updated via our Facebook page, which is simply facebook.com/Liv'n the Dream page. Because all 4 of us plan to take advantage of our free week at Sandals, potentially making it a 2-center vacation next July or August in Jamaica. On the right, you can see the second stage, because on the left, you'll find the Drunken Duck, the English-style pub. What I will say is the Drunken Duck is pretty similar to all of the English-style pubs you will find across the Sandals hotel network. But I can only praise the team here in Antigua, because the food at the Drunken Duck at the Sandals Grande Antigua is actually very good. It's a strong menu, the quantities are very good, and the service was excellent when we visited the pub during our Antigua 21 adventure. And here we are passing Mario's, which is an Italian restaurant by night, a breakfast buffet in the morning, and next to Mario's is the pizzeria. And of course, opposite Mario's is the main Mediterranean pool at the resort here in Antigua. I do want to comment here on Mario's because it's one of our favourite restaurants. It's got a very good menu, but it was sadly let down this year by poor service. During the first visit to Mario's during the first week of our vacation, I think Fiona and I were fed 3 courses in just over 30 minutes. In fact, they tried to deliver our main course while we were still eating our starters, and the waitress had absolutely no clue what red wine she was serving Fiona. Again, all very basic stuff a 5-star restaurant like Sandals should be able to get right. And of course, next to Mario's is the pizzeria at lunchtime. Fiona and I love the pizzas Sandals serve. But to be honest guys, the service we faced during our 2021 adventure here at the Sandals Grande Antigua was absolutely ridiculous. It was taking Sandals somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes to serve pizzas. None of us had any clue what was going wrong here at the pizzeria on site. But I think all of the guests commented how pathetic it was. And again, at one lunchtime they ran out of wine. So of course, rather than going to the next bar to get another bottle of wine, it was up to Fiona to go and get it herself. Again, clearly demonstrating how poor some of the staff are here at the Sandals Grande Antigua. But moving on from the pizzeria, you can see that the Mediterranean rooms are just behind. We only visited this part of the resort once during our Antigua 21 adventure, and that of course was for the Sandals returning guest dinner, where we were served completely rubbish and unedible food, while listening to the Sandals management congratulate themselves for a pretty poor job well done. However, Fiona and I did get awarded our free week at Sandals. However, as you can imagine, we will not be redeeming this free week at the Sandals Grande Antigua. Leaving the main Mediterranean block behind me, I'm now walking down towards the Mediterranean pool. During my walkabout to record this video, it was probably around about 7:45 to 8 AM by the time I reached the main Mediterranean side pool. So as you can see, there were still plenty of sun loungers to be had. The butlers clearly hadn't got there. But I should state now that if you tried to get a sun lounger around this pool after about 11 AM, you were completely stuffed. But to be honest, this was no issue to Fiona and I at all, because we had no plans to ever sit around this pool. It's just noisy with a DJ playing music all day. There is also pool size quizzes, and this is absolutely no criticism guys, it is just not Fiona and my thing. And here I am approaching Barefoot on the beach. Barefoot is a fish restaurant at night, so not a restaurant that Fiona and I ever visited in the evening. However, Barefoot is a great lunchtime venue with quesadillas, burgers and soup and sandwiches all available for lunchtime. You simply can't go wrong. So when we get to our Antigua 21 adventure videos, you will see Fiona, Donna, Michael and I regularly visiting Barefoot on the beach for lunch. And behind Barefoot on the beach you will find, yes guys, you'll find the beach no less. Of course that's where you'll find the Sandals Water Sports Centre, where you can take out a hobby cat or a kayak, arrange your snorkeling and scuba diving trips, and even obtain your PADI certification. So So that's it, guys. That is my resort and room tour of the Sandals Grande Antigua in October 2021. I'm going to take a stroll back to the Caribbean side along the beach and try and sum up our experience when we visited this resort during early October 21. The beach is one of the main reasons that will attract you to the Sandals Grande Antigua, and what a fantastic beach it is. Antigua boasts 365 beaches on the island, one for every day, and they tell me on leap years they simply visit one beach twice. However, the beach is a public beach. In fact, every beach on Antigua is a public beach. And I can only assume that's the reason that Sandals don't have swings and donuts to relax on out in the water, which of course you will find at the Sandals Grande St. Lucian. I know that some people on the Sandals Grande Antigua Facebook fan page have commented negatively towards the beach vendors. During all of the trips onto the beach at the Sandals Grande Antigua that Fiona and I made, none of the beach vendors really ever caused us any hassle. But if you are looking for a private beach linked to the Sandals Resort, this will not be the resort for you. And also, while we were here, there was a jellyfish problem. A number of guests had complained about being stung, and this was something we certainly hadn't come across during our last visit to this resort in 2019. But there is no doubt this is a beautiful beach, and it certainly is a beautiful resort. Throughout this resort and room tour, I know that I have criticised a number of Sandals staff. What I would like to say is the vast majority of the Sandals staff here at the Grande Antigua were fantastic. They were awesome and extremely helpful. They were unfortunately let down by far too many poor staff that really have no place working in the hospitality sector. Add it to it taking 3 days to get a bottle of champagne and 4 days to get coffee replenished in our room. Add to that the unacceptable wait times for food at lunchtime. You get a 5-star Caribbean resort with a major problem. Fiona and I do worry with the loss of Boots Stewart, the founder, the brains and the passion behind Sandals 40 years ago. Standards at Sandals are beginning to fall, but unfortunately the falling standards are not reflected in the increasing prices that Sandals charge. And this has left Fiona, Donna, Michael and I searching for a different all-inclusive 5-star Caribbean resort chain to visit on our 2022 October vacation next year. However, I do accept that there are plenty of you that will have visited the Sandals Grande Antigua between September and November 21 and will have loved it. This resort and room tour is therefore based on our opinions as returning Sandals guests. Fiona, Michael, Donna and I have visited many Sandals resorts over the last number of years. And while the Grande Antigua was never Fiona's and my favourite, we did feel that after our first day in 2019, it was worth another try in 2021. I'm sorry to report that it will be our last. And while this is a beautiful resort, it is simply let down by too much poor service. And given that this 2-week vacation cost Fiona and I well over $10,000, we are confident that there is better value available out there in the all-inclusive 5-star Caribbean luxury market. So despite my rants, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you wish to follow Fiona and I as we continue our Antigua 21 adventure, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.
Oh,